Hello everyone, welcome to MastersTeach. And today we are going to discuss about the administrative law, the functions of administrative law. Okay, we have very few slides and which is helpful to you. Okay, classification of administrative law. Okay, so here we are going to discuss key roles and powers of administrative authorities in governance, especially in India. And this particular thing is useful for your those who are writing for LLB third sem examination. Okay, we'll see for the examination point of view, and as well as it is useful for the judicial examination purpose. Okay, just there are four types of administrative functions: legislative functions, quasi judicial functions, administrative functions, and ministerial functions. We'll discuss along with the example. Okay, what is legislative functions? Okay, so see, it's a rule making power. So it is delegated or passed to the administrative bodies to create subordinate legislations. For example, SEBI, Central Exchange Board of India, which formulates the rules and regulation for the stock market, like under the SEBI acts. Okay, like deciding uh, various trading regulations is there, that is looked after by the SEBI. And administrative functions. So these functions involves this executive function involving policy implementation and discretionary decisions. For example, RTO, so Regional Transport Office, issue a driving license after evaluating eligibility. They check about your age, your health, and your capability. Okay, so this license issued by the RTO. So this comes under administrative functions. Then quasi judicial functions. So this is deciding disputes between the parties following the judicial procedures and principles. For example, income tax appellate tribunals, that is ITAT. So it is adjusting the tax disputes. Okay, so tax related disputes are given to the income tax appellate tribunal. Okay, so this comes under quasi judicial function. Okay, ministerial function. So it is routine duties performed without any discretion, following the fixed rules and procedures. For example, when the municipal clerk issuing a birth certificate, so upon the receiving the required documentation. So you should remember these classification. There are four classification: administrative law. The one is legislative, quasi judicial functions, then administrative functions, and ministerial functions. You can check with the examples also have given. Okay, then legislative functions of administrative bodies. So what are the legislative functions? So administrative bodies exercise, they make the rule making. Okay, they have the power to create subordinate laws, so delegated by the parent statutes. For example, Security and Exchange Board of India, which frames the rules uh, governing by the stock market. So it is deriving from the SEBI Act. Okay, so what is the key functions of legislative functions of administrative bodies? One is from the parent status they make the acts. So that particular acts affects the large group of people. Okay, they also create the new legal rights and obligations. Okay, then this perspective affect the future actions, so which is published for the public acknowledge. So the common examples here: rules framed by the ministries, a regulation issued by the regulatory bodies. First the ministry issues, then regulations issued the regulatory bodies like SEBI or RBI. They make the bylaws. Okay, they make the regulatory bodies like SBI and SEBI and RBI, the bylaws made by the municipalities, and so municipality will issue the notifications under the various act. So these are the legislative functions of administrative bodies. So what is the see we saw here legislative functions, quasi judicial function, administrative function, and ministerial function. We are discussing one by one. What is quasi judicial functions? Okay, quasi judicial functions involves administrative bodies deciding disputes, mimicking court procedures, but within a limited scope. Okay, what are the features of quasi judicial functions? So they act with the impartiality, they won't show any partiality. So they follow the natural justice. Okay, provide the reason decisions based on evidence. For example, real world example, uh, see in the university when the students are fighting. Okay, what the principal of the school hear both the sides and decide on the basis of what they have done mistake. So they'll punish the misconducting students. There is a real world example for the quasi judicial function. So distinction from the courts, it is not a regular court or judicial system. Okay, when the students are fighting, the principal come into the picture and they solve their issues, they hear both sides. Okay, and they will justify the thing. So they have the limited jurisdiction specific subject. So decision subject to the judicial review. Okay, so real world example here, National Green Tribunal. So this is not the court. However, NCT, that is National Green Tribunal, handles the exclusive environmental disputes, uh, not like general civil courts. Okay, so this is a quasi judicial explain. So examples: income tax appellate tribunal, consumer dispute redressal forums, labor courts, which comes under quasi judicial functions. I hope you like this particular content. Okay, then administrative and ministerial functions. For example, so like see, it involves policy decisions and discretionary powers. For example, granting license, issuing permits, and authorities have freedom to make choices. For example, in every district collector have the power to grant the arm license. So so they will consider after issues and backgrounds, and they will issue the arm license to the required person. This is the administrative functions. Okay, then ministerial functions. So in administrative law, what is ministerial? So they day-to-day functions which is performed by the officers. For example, it is a rotation, and it is a mechanical duties. So without any discretion, the rules and regulations are laid down. So according to that, they work. For example, in municipality, they issue the birth certificates and they maintain the registers. Okay, example, revenue officer. So they collect the land revenue tax as per the prescribed law. They won't use any discretion on the amount. As per the rules, they'll do. So regular rotation works called as ministerial function. The key functions. So administrative function involves choice and discretion. Minister, so choice and discretion. In administrative function, we say that the collector grant the arm license after considering various factors. That is the discretion and choice. Then minister function, it is a mandatory. So the government official has to do their work, and so so this distinction is crucial for judicial review. So the legal implication in this, courts can be compel minister functions via mandamus when they order to the administrators if they violate the rules and regulation. So administrative discipline reviewed by the only lawfulness, not di- directions. Okay, so this is the thing. Then delegate legislation means the laws which is uh, made by the non-legislative bodies apart from non-legislative means parliamentary or assembly. So other people, those who do that laws, called as non-legislative bodies under powers granted by the parent status. So So to create detailed rules policy making, for example, here Motor Vehicle Act 1988, this is central government is empowered to frame the rules as the Central Motor Vehicle Act 1989, covering the aspects like giving license and vehicle registration. So the parent statute is the Central Motor Vehicles Act, Motor Vehicle Act 1988. The central governments is the parent state. The legislators passed the act granting the rule making power. They give the rule making powers to the RTOs and all that. They delegate. They given the authority to the executive and administrative bodies. Then subordinate rules. These administrators give the pass the rules like detailed rules, regulation, bylaws are framed. Then implementation. So rules come into force, enforced as the law. So this is a delegated, matlab passing from one person to other, from central government to the like authorities, administrative authorities. Then it go to the subordinates. Then it is going to be implemented. That is called the delegated. Okay, here you can check the central people are there, then it goes to here, then it goes to here, then it's going to be implemented like this. Okay, I hope you enjoy this class. The delegated legislation has grown. So this delegation means passing of the power is grown due to practical issues and necessary. The parliament cannot do all the works, okay, and they cannot do all the laws directly because the lack of time. The parliament has to look after their constituency, their people, and discussions, okay. So they have little time, so they delegate the legislations, saves time for the policy example, okay. So they delegate lack of time. Then need for technical expertise. So everything cannot be done by the people, okay. So they need the technical expert. For example, the Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, that FSSAI, that is Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, frames the detailed regulation under the FSS Act 2006. So leveraging scientific expert for food safety uh, standards. Then flexibility, adaptability. So subordinate legislation allow the quick amendment to meet the changing circumstances. So circumstances, the situation changes, there is a flexibility. So in order to have the flexibility, they delegate the authority, okay. So amendment, for example, amendments in GST rules and notification can be rapidly introduced by the GST council and government, adapting the economic changes more swiftly than parliamentary. So GST council make the acts and they can be implemented very fast because this parliamentarian have the less time or no time, or they are not expertise. Then marketing, meeting emergencies. So under situations demand immediate actions is required, so they delegate the powers. During COVID-19, so pandemic, central and state government issued the numerous orders under the Disaster Management Act 2005 to implement the lockdown and containment measures rapidly. So this is the why the delegated legislation has grown, because parliamentary has no time or less time, so it needs expertise, knowledge, and flexibility, adaptability is required. Then meeting emergency like COVID like situations or disasters, okay. That is the reason the delegate is required. That is the reason the importance of the administrative law is grown. Then classification of delegated legislation. So delegated legislation takes the various forms of depending on the delegate authority purpose, each with the distinct character. One is the executive legislation, where which makes the rules and regulations, okay. It is the, for example, Central Motor Vehicle Act 1989, framed by the Ministry of Road and Highway under the Motor Vehicles Act 1988. Then municipal legislation. It is the bylaws made by the local authority for local government. For example, bylaws are framed by the Delhi Municipal Corporation regarding the property and solid waste management. So municipal legislation. Then autonomous means regulations are made by the autonomous bodies like for internal affairs. For example, University Grant Commission (UGC) make the regulation for the minimum standards for PhD and all the stuff. Okay, it's just reading I'm telling. Okay, try to zoom it and read. Okay, if you want to have the soft copy, I can forward it to you. Then sub delegation. So delegate authority further delegates the rules making power. For example, an act empower the central government to make rules, which then authorize the specific officers in a issue operation guidance. Then judicial rule making. So rules made by the courts regarding procedures and practices. For example, Supreme Court rule 2013. So governing the practice and procedures of the Supreme Court of India. Then conditional legislation. So laws in force when specific conditions are fulfilled. So, for example, an act whose provisions apply to specific area only for the date of notified by the irrespective of state governance. So, conditions. So, the legislation may not applicable to all for the specific time and specific area only. So, this is the thing. Okay. Okay. So, classification of delegated legislation, executive legislation, municipal legislation, autonomous legislation, sub-delegation, judicial rulemaking, then conditional legislation. Go through this one, and when you write in the exam, try to write the headlines, proper numbers, and this is also useful for the your judicially examination in the coming days. Then control of over delegated legislation. Who control these? Delegated legislation. One is judicial control. That means court review the validity, consistent parent act and compliance with the constitutional rights, ultra virus. If you are going out of the rules, then ultra virus, that is called. Example, Indian Supreme Court examines if the government notify exceed the powers granted by the enable acting, striking down the arbitrary environment. Like this means when it is going out of control, then judicially comes into picture. Okay, then here, just wait. Then legislative control means parliament is supervised through various committees. The committees will scrutinize and the powers or modify the delegate legislation whenever they are required. That delegated when the past authority is going wrong, then they will restrict, they will scrutinize by appointing the various committee. Then procedural control, so ensure that there is a they issue the like public drafts, public consultation, and proper notification. So, for example, before finalizing the new traffic rules of the environmental impact assessment, so notice there, Indian government often publishes the drafts and public commitment comments, ensuring the citizen participation. So control delegated election by judicial control, legislative control, then the procedural control they follows. So then what we have learned, four functions. Okay, that is like legislative, quasi judicial, administrative, and ministerial function. Then delegation essential. So we discussed about the why it is required, because parliamentary don't have time, and they need technical expert, flexibility and emergency needs, and various classification we see here. Like delegation includes like classification executive, municipal, and conditional forms. Okay, then specific purpose we discuss. Then three tiers function. Okay, one is the judicially review, legislative supervision, and procedural safeguards. Okay, go through this video again and again, and so that you are going to score more marks. All the best for your coming examination. You can download my app, MastersTeach. Do share with your friends, those who are doing LLB across India. Okay, that they are going to benefit it with the free classes. Okay, thank you. All the best.